Hi, I'm John, and I like to relax.
He really does. And I'm Tammy, and I like to explore.
She really does.
And I'm Austin, and I like to repeat.
He really does.
And together we are Relax, Explore, Repeat.
Hi guys. We realized we have been shooting a lot of video, but not doing a whole lot of talking.
And that makes for really boring videos.
And I usually try to hide from the camera, and I'm going to try really hard not to do that anymore.
So anyway, we've got a lot of catching up to do. We got really behind on making videos.
Austin's not in this video because he's supposed to be working the camera, and anytime we come to a lull, he's going to push pause so we can think about what we're going to say. Austin, you want to peek in here and say hi?
Sup?
In our last video, we were leaving Emmett, Idaho, where we had visited with our friends Mike, Tanya, and Michaela.
Hi guys, if you're watching.
Hey guys.
And then we headed north up the western side of Idaho. Yeah, whenever possible, we avoid the interstate because I hate the interstate. There's all the traffic. It avoids most of the cities. I mean, if you're just looking to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, sure, take the interstate. But that's not what we're doing. We're wanting to see the country. So we decided to take smaller state highways on our way towards Seattle.
We realized that when you take the road less traveled, you see so much more of the country, and so much beauty is just bypassed by taking the interstate.
Exactly. So leaving Emmett, we took Highway 55 north, which just went through valley after valley in between. There's mountains on both sides. A river followed the highway all the way up. It eventually connected with 95 north, which was more the same. Driving through valleys in between the mountains with the river running next to it. Through on the state highways, there were so many places we saw that were beautiful places, little small towns, cool things to see. Much better than just hopping on the interstate and flying by everything.
There was also a lot of BLM land along the way that we could have stayed at, and we saw site after site that was just a really neat area to pull off into and stay for the night. But we just, we kept pushing along and found this really great spot.
Yes, it was. Where was it? It was still in Idaho. It was outside of the town of Lewiston, Idaho. It was managed BLM. They had hookups, actual camp spots with hookups, and they had a camp host there. Even though it was BLM, there was a camp host, and it was $9 a night.
It was $18 a night, but because Austin has a disability and we have the access pass to the national parks, we got half off.
Yeah,
I wanted to say a quick word about the camp host. He was, I believe, 87 years old. He'd been working there for 10 years. He's won awards for best camp host, and he was the nicest guy you could ever meet.
Very cool. And very active.
It was
I guess
awesome.
that's the key to longevity. He's out there mowing grass and taking care of the campgrounds and stuff. Really cool guy.
We have some pictures of the campground.
Right.
It was probably the best campground we have ever stayed at. Not that we've stayed at a lot, but even some of these ones that people pay to stay at, a lot of money to stay at, it was a very nice campground.
So that put us just east of Lewiston, Idaho, just off of Highway 12. I don't want to say the name of the campground because there were some people there that said, don't tell anybody. This is like the best kept secret ever. So that's where we were. Lewiston, and then there's a sister city right across the river called Clarkston. Lewiston and Clarkston, named after two famous explorers. Can anybody guess who? That's right, Lewis and Clark. History lesson. Have you ever noticed those Lewis and Clark signs? They're always pointing. We like to say, oh look, Lewis and Clark pointed that way. Anyway, they're kind of cute little towns.
We actually, everywhere we go, we see those signs where Lewis and Clark pointed, but we actually saw statues of them pointing. That was really cool.
And we thought it was actually them. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, there's Lewiston was in Idaho, Clarkston was in Washington, separated by 100 feet of river. Almost everything was open in Lewiston, and hardly anything at all was open in Clarkston. Makes perfect sense, right? So anyway, we liked Lewiston better than Clarkston. But Clarkston side, both cities have a path that follows the river, like a paved path. And the one in Clarkston was a little more treed and shaded, a little bit nicer. So we did go over the river and ride the bike trail along the river in Clarkston.
Mm-hmm. No, we didn't. But I wanted to say really quick that even though they were sister towns, Lewiston was a little bit bigger and had a lot more cooler
old stuff,
and the buildings were a lot neater, and it was just a neater town.
Clarkston had a Walmart and a Costco.
Costco. Mm-hmm.
But
other than that, downtown Lewiston was the place to be.
No big deal. That was dumb. So, like Tammy said, we're only there for a day. Did you say that?
I don't know.
I think so.
Somebody
Anyway, yeah. So we didn't do a whole lot of exploring. From there, we headed towards Spokane to meet up with some more friends. But we took a little side trip to Palouse Falls, Plouse, Palouse Falls. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it was this really cool, giant, humongous waterfall that went through a canyon and then dropped. I don't remember the specs on how tall it was, but it was huge. And then it was a big, like something you'd see in a movie, like on a tropical island. This waterfall was very cool.
And if you haven't gathered yet, I love waterfalls. And John likes the ocean. I like the mountains. But one of the reasons I like the mountains so much is because waterfalls are usually nearby. And so we will probably be chasing a lot of waterfalls. So you chase waterfalls. So anyway, you'll probably see a lot of waterfalls. This was probably, I would think, you saw Shoshone Falls and this Palouse Falls. I can't imagine that there's going to be too many waterfalls that we see after this that will be as good as those were, but we'll just have to wait and find out.
Until next time.
Catch you later, Moot and Gator.